What up, y'all? This DJ Illmatic bringing you another episode of Daily Operation. This Daily Operation episode 3, and we live and direct, straight from my crib, USA. Back once again to chop it up with you about everything going on in gaming today. This week, Dying Light dropped, so I figured I'd holler at y'all about Dying Light. I spent probably 4 hours last night playing it after buying the game, and I have to say my initial impressions of the game, I'm having a blast playing the game. It's a lot of fun. I've made it through the early prologue and started, I believe, my first or second mission. So I'm having a whole lot of fun playing the game so far. Now, graphically, especially the world, the game looks really, really good. The world is beautiful. Now, the character models are lacking in comparison. The character models don't look as good as the world itself. But the world does look very, very good. And that's not to say the character models are terrible, but the world itself is probably the star of the show graphically. I've run into a couple of clipping issues. It's not that serious. You'll see coming up in a minute there'll be a man on the left side of the screen. He's standing on a balcony shooting out at the zombies, and you'll see his leg clip through the wall. Things like that really don't bother me as long as they're not prevalent everywhere you look. And so I've only ran across it a couple of times, like I said. So it hasn't bothered me. I know some people are real anal about things like that, and they'll take the forums and message boards and talk about how many glitches the game has. Like I said, there's a few clipping issues, but it hasn't been that serious. And like I said, graphically, the game looks really, really good. The controls do take some getting used to, primarily because they mapped the jump button to the R1 button, or I guess the right bumper if you're playing on Xbox. And I think we're all used to the jump button being on a face button, so to change it to a bumper is a shoulder button is something that takes some getting used to. I haven't really looked at the different control schemes. Generally, I usually play with the default controls. For me, generally speaking, a developer either nails the controls or they don't. And so usually when I have to change the control, or if I try to change the control scheme, that one thing I didn't like, it may fix that, but then there's two other things I don't like now. So I just usually leave it on default controls. But the jump being on a shoulder button does take some getting used to. I've, like I said, played about 4 hours, and it's something I'm getting used to. The biggest issue I'm having with it being on the shoulder button is that the attack button is the right trigger. And so basically the two things you do most in this game, jump and then attack, are mapped right next to each other. And so I found myself meaning to attack and instead hitting the R1, the jump button. And so hopefully as I play more and more, it'll just become second nature. But that does take some getting used to. Now, the one thing I can say they did nail is the nighttime sequences in the game. Now, it's not something new they tried. I believe Dead Rising 3 did the same thing, to where when night comes, the zombies are more aggressive, they're more powerful. You're in more danger at night. But on Dead Rising 3, I never really felt more in danger. I always felt in Dead Rising 3 that I could continue to do the same things even at night and I would still be successful. I may have to be a little bit more careful, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I was never afraid in Dead Rising 3 to be out at night. Dying Light is the exact opposite. There's a genuine terror. You are terrified to be out at night. When you start to see the sunset, you look on the map and you find that nearest safe house because you understand you're not going to survive at night. There's an entirely different set of zombies that come out as well. I believe they call them hunters, although I could be wrong on the name. But these hunters can run and jump and climb and all that just as quick as you can, and they come in packs. And so when nighttime comes, there's a genuine feeling of fear, and you want to make it to that nearest safe house because you understand if you don't make it to that nearest safe house, you're going to have to end up reloading your last save point because you will die. And so they've really captured that fear of being out at night probably better than any game that's tried that before that I've played, at least. Now that may change as I level up. Like I said, I'm really early into the game, so I'm not sure if it's just a product of me not having a whole lot of attributes, and I may level up to a point where I end up becoming a G and nothing really fazes me even at night. But as at this present time, nighttime is definitely far too dangerous for me to be out in the world of Dying Light. Now, another thing I do enjoy in Dying Light is the attribute system. You rank up and you earn progression points, which you can spend on new attributes. And the thing I like about it is the more you do something, the more it ranks up. So, for instance, you have an agility skill tree, and the more you run and jump and climb, the quicker that builds up, and the quicker you earn skill points in your agility skill tree. Same thing for combat, and also there's one for survival in the world. Honestly, I'm not really sure what you have to do for the survivor skill. I guess make things. But I like that concept of the more you do something, the better you get at it, as opposed to just randomly giving you attribute points and you can arbitrarily spend them on whatever you want. I like the concept of the more you do something, the better it gets. But overall, like I said, I'm only 4 hours in. The game may grow old to me very quickly. 6 hours from now, I may hate it, but as of right now, I'm having a blast with the game. It's a whole lot of fun. I can't wait to get back on it as soon as I finish up this episode of Daily Operation. I'm back on Dying Light to put in some more work, and so I would definitely recommend it to everyone. I'm really excited. This is the first game for me of 2015. I'm not really sure if anyone's copped anything before this. I'm not even sure what's come out before this, but for me, this is the first game of 2015. And if this is the standard bearer, or it sets the standard for games to come, I'm excited, okay, because we're off to a good start in 2015, because Dying Light is a really good game, and so I recommend everyone check it out. Next up on the menu, I want to holler at y'all about Nintendo. Now, going back, for me at least, from what I can remember, it seems like Nintendo was constantly being criticized, going all the way back to the N64. In fact, I think the last thing Nintendo did right that everyone was happy with is the Super Nintendo, because ever since then they've faced constant criticism, and that constant criticism continues to grow now with the Wii U. Most people are not happy with the Wii U. They want it to be a different system. They want the online to improve. They want more third party. They want more of this. They want more of that. I'm here to say that I absolutely love the Nintendo Wii U, and not only that, I'm very happy with the lane Nintendo is in. I think the primary problem is this. Going back to the Nintendo, I think the Nintendo generation, of that console generation, and Super Nintendo, those consoles and video gaming in general was primarily aimed at younger gamers, at kids. It was marketed for kids, the games were for kids, and so video gaming back then was for kids. As video gaming has evolved from console generation to console generation, I think at this point with the PS4 and the Xbox One, that we are at a point where video gaming is an adult hobby. It's marketed primarily for adults. Most of the games that come out on those two systems are for adults. The features and whatnot, most of these things tend to be more for an adult audience. And so I think these and it's these adult gamers are the ones that are constantly criticizing Nintendo. I think they've become greedy. Xbox and PS4 cater to the adult gamer, and so I think in their greed, a lot of these people complaining about Nintendo want Nintendo to be that same console that caters to them as adults. And that's just greed, because we already have two consoles that appeal to us as adult gamers. I'm glad that Nintendo maintains and continues to be a system that appeals to kids. Now, I can't say they're really marketed to kids anymore, because I can't tell you the last time I saw a Nintendo commercial, but primarily most of the games you see are a kid or a family friendly type of game. And that's not to say that the PS4 and the Xbox One doesn't have those types of games, but on the PlayStation and the Xbox, kid-friendly or family-friendly games are the exception, not the rule. Whereas on most of your games, they are mature. Whereas on Nintendo, the Wii U, you have most of your games are going to cater to that all-inclusive kid or family-friendly audience, and you have the occasional mature game. And so I'm glad Nintendo is out there for the younger gamer. If I had children and they were up to 11, 12, 13, maybe up even a little bit farther than that, but if I had children, my kids would be a Nintendo gamer. They would play Nintendo. The last thing in the world I would do is buy them an Xbox or a PlayStation, because once again, most of the games, especially all the very good games or great games, are mature themes, and these are not something that I would want my children at a young age playing. Whereas Nintendo, not only do you have a lot of family-friendly games, but these are some of, if not the best games on the console. And so for me, I'm glad Nintendo's out there, because this is the ideal console for a kid coming up, until they get to a mature enough level where they can play Grand Theft Auto and games like this. Now, sad to say, Unfortunately, we have parents nowadays who buy their kids 11, 12, 13-year-old kids playing Grand Theft Auto. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone how to raise their kids. That being said, if your kid is 11 and 12 or 13 and you buying them Grand Theft Auto, you need to rethink how you're raising your kids, because that's not appropriate. In my mind, you buying your 11, 12-year-old Grand Theft Auto is the same thing as you buying them a porno flick. Okay, they don't have any more business watching a porno flick at that age as they do with playing Grand Theft Auto. Now, I'm not one of those people that think that if your kid plays Grand Theft Auto, he's going to grow up and be a killer. I don't think it has a direct correlation. I'm not saying that no more than I think if a young kid watches a porno flick, they're going to grow up to be a rapist or grow up to be promiscuous. Okay, so I'm not going that far with it to say there's a direct correlation. But everything isn't for everybody. And these are mature games for a reason. And so kids have no business playing those things. And unfortunately, we have more and more parents buying these for them. And one of the arguments a lot of people say is, well, if my kid doesn't play, I buy my kid here because I know he's going to play it anyway. If he doesn't play my house, he'll go over his friend's house and play it because his friend's house, his friend's parents buy it for him. And you're probably right. He'll probably still play it somewhere else. But the key is you still send a message. It's still a lesson learned, because the kid understands if he has to go to his friend's house to play that game, and that you do not support those types of things, you do not condone those types of things. That sends a message to your child. Let your child know that, you know what, this isn't appropriate. Okay, everything isn't appropriate every time. There's a time and a place for everything, and so that sends a message. Even though he may still play it, he understands that it's not something that is always appropriate or is appropriate in all situations. So you can still send a message to your kid by not supporting it, even if he does play it elsewhere. But we're going down a wormhole with that. We can have a whole other series of episodes on that. I'm just glad that Nintendo is out there for the younger gamer. The younger gamer has a chance to grow up in gaming in a safe environment as much as it can in terms of gaming. There are kid-friendly games, family-friendly games, and that's not to say that you got to be a kid to play Nintendo, because I have a Wii U. I love it. Mario Brothers is classic. It's timeless. Playing Mario 3D, I get that same feeling I did when I played Super Mario Brothers 3 back when I was younger. So these types of games are timeless. I'm not saying they're just for kids, but the fact that they're such great games and they're kid-friendly, I really love Nintendo for doing that. Nintendo, as far as I can remember, they've always been like that. I remember back when I was young and had an Super Nintendo, and Mortal Kombat came out, and Nintendo stood up and said they weren't going to allow blood in the game. I applaud them for that. Now, I can't speak financially. I can't say how they're doing financially. It might be costing them financially, and I don't argue that. I don't know those numbers, but I'm glad, and I hope they continue to be that console for the younger generation, the younger gamer, so they can come into gaming and play some really great games that are friendly and appropriate for their age. I don't want Nintendo to change their online structure. The last thing I want is Nintendo's online to be like PlayStation or Xbox. I mean, come on, people. Think about all the deplorable things we hear on PlayStation and Xbox. That's the last thing I would want my kid hearing. And so I'm glad, I applaud Nintendo for being an amazing system, an amazing company, continuing to make and keep their games and their consoles kid and family friendly. And I hope they continue to do that regardless of the sales numbers. I mean, I hope they sell a lot more because it's a great console. They provide great games. But I hope regardless of the sales figures, they still continue to be that type of console that is family and kid friendly. All right, y'all, that's all we got this week for Daily Operation. This is DJ Illmatic, Daily Operation, Episode 3. Once again, check us out, 8bitchimp.com. We're bringing you all that gaming flavor you savor. Holler at us in the comments. Let us know what you think. Go check out my YouTube channel, DJ_Illmatic. Like the video. Subscribe to my channel. Holler at me in the comments. Let me know what you're feeling. If you're liking the videos, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll address them in future episodes. Get at me on Twitch at the same DJ_Illmatic, and also holler at me on Twitter, DJ Illmatic23. There's no underscore, no space, just DJ Illmatic23 on Twitter. Once again, holler at me there. I'll get back at you. This DJ Illmatic, Daily Operation. Fat shout to my Organized Gamers family. Big shout to my man Bam for showing love on the videos. This DJ Illmatic, 8bitchimp.com, Daily Operation. We out, y'all. One.